What's goody, bro?
What up? What up?
Hmm. How you doing, man?
Chilling, man. Here in New York, doing some fashion things this weekend with the wifey and watching these games locked in.
There've been some good games. This whole like scenario. So this is my first time doing like baseball playoffs was my first time doing it ever, but like in the media. And before when I was playing, I don't know about you, but when I was done playing, like especially because I never made the playoffs, bro, like as soon as my last game hit, I was off in Europe or like I was vacationing somewhere and didn't know who won the World Series. Basically, I never watched not one game. So go from that to like now, I've watched every single game that is being played, and lucky to me, I feel like this has been an exciting postseason, man.
Yeah, bro, for sure. I think with me, when I got done playing too, I was like, first thing I did was when I retired, me and my wife to be went straight to Europe, just like you did, and like we're out for a whole month, pretty much visiting Italy and London and all these places. And
Yeah,
I would just all I would do with keeping up with baseball was I would just watch my boys. Like I'd watch Mookie, I'd watch
right.
Bogarts, and watch guys play get their hits, and then I wouldn't watch any more of the game. But now being with Nesson this year with Boston, like I watch more Boston Red Sox games, and locked into this postseason because I'm doing the coverage now too. So yeah, bro, it's fun, man. It's the new playoff like brackets and how everything plays out. I think is more interesting now than it was back in the day because we're seeing bottom seeds get to the World Series like every year in the past 3 years that it's changed.
Yeah, and so the thing I like about the playoffs too is like people are actually playing the game and not trying to achieve certain like I don't know release points or whatever it is or whatever guys are doing now, like to try to like help their stats and get paid, which I understand all that. Right now, you're seeing bunts. There's two bunts the other day or yesterday. You know what I mean, right? Like with the
Bro,
Dodgers
yes,
game.
I said there was more on Twitter today. I said there was more bunts than extra base hits in the game yesterday. Like they
That's
had two
old
bunts
school
and only one extra
baseball.
base hit, and they scored 9 runs.
Yeah,
Like the Dodgers came in like, hey, we're playing playoff baseball. We're getting guys over that. All we need is a single, and that's what happened yesterday. They had two sacrifice bunts and two singles, two RBIs. So it's good that the game is getting back to having like a variety of ways to win the game. And I think the rule changes have helped that big time for me because we're seeing more athletic players in a lineup now. We're not just seeing big boppers at second base, just hit home runs and play no defense. Like you need guys that can run, guys that can steal, play good defense, and that guys can move the ball. That's what the Diamondbacks did last year by getting to
yeah.
the World Series. They played great defense and were scrappy around the bases.
Yeah, well, and you're seeing that with like the Mets, man. I mean, and the other thing too is that they've been hot as hell.
Oh,
And it's I've always said like the teams that get the hottest towards the end, where a lot of people say it, are the most dangerous teams. And so with the way these guys are playing right now, like you have to get on them. And luckily the Dodgers yesterday they were able to do that. Right now it's a little bit of a different story. They flipped the script on them, but I kind of feel like coming into this game, and even my wife, like again, my wife watches a lot of baseball now too because I watch it.
love it.
And she was like, what was the score yesterday? And I was like 9-0 or whatever it was. And she was like, huh? And I was like, yeah, and the Dodgers haven't given up a run and the pitchers haven't given up a run in like 30 some innings. She was like, oh wow, well doesn't that kind of mean that like the game's gonna
They're
go
going
be
to.
totally opposite? And I was like, hold on, let me see who's pitching. And I saw like there was like the bullpen. It was a bullpen day for the Dodgers, and I'm like, ooh, I think you're right. And then Mania, the way he's been pitching,
Bro,
I was
nasty.
like, he's been sick. So I'm like, I think you're right. Then it's going to be like an off balance. And sure enough, you had Francisco Lindor hitting that bomb, to lead off the game. And it's like, yeah, this is going to be one of those games. I feel like so. It's crazy how that happens, man. It's just like the momentum shifts. So like it's like what's gonna happen next.
Bro, but you watched the momentum shift so quickly when in the Padres Dodgers series.
Mm.
Bro, the
Yep.
Padres controlled that whole series. Like it was like, oh, this is gonna be over. And then next thing you know, it just that's why I love baseball. Baseball is not like basketball or football where, your guys are gonna get 25 points a game. Like the studs are gonna get 25 points a game, like no matter what. No matter if they
Right.
play terrible or they play great. They're gonna get their 25 if they're having a bad day. Well, the guys that have a bad day, 3Ks, like don't do anything and don't help the team win at all. So like with baseball, it can flip so much. Like just like today, you watch they scored 6 runs in the first 3 innings of the game. You know what I mean? And it's just
Yeah.
whereas like yesterday, I say it was like the layover that they had, of not playing for 3 days and kind of getting like the bye feel that all the first rounders got. Like they're at bats yesterday, even though Flaherty is through a great game, like we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
To me, Flaherty looked great. Like, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like this guy's got nasty stuff and this guy should be dominating like how he looked like he was dominating. You know what I mean? Like, it was
Yeah.
just these guys just looked like they were just their timing was just off. They were missing pitches down the middle and like just swinging at pitches in the dirt like how they weren't doing against the Phillies. So I knew that it was going to take them like a day to get acclimated, and then it showed today that first inning, Lindor just
Well,
getting the
so
boys right.
yeah. So the thing with Flaherty though, so I've noticed whenever he's good, he does two things. He's able to pound the ball down and away, and his sweeper for me is the pitch, a sweeper or curveball, not his curveball, not the slow one, the one that's like mid to upper 80s, whatever he calls that
Mm-hmm.
one. That's the one for me that gets him in trouble because when he's not going right, he's yanking it, or when he's not yanking it, he's leaving that thing over the middle of the plate. It's like backs up on him. And I've seen him get burned so many times on that. So many times. And it's almost like because he likes to front hip or backdoor it sometimes the lefties. And sometimes whenever because I used to like doing that too. And that arm slot kind of stays with you sometimes. And when you feel that, you're like, all right, well, I got to really get on top of it. I got to really spin it. And when you try to really spin it, it goes way out of the zone. So then you're like, all right, I got to try to throw a strike here with one. And then the backup one comes. And I didn't see, I think he threw maybe one or two sliders that backed up. And one of them was taken for a strike. And the other one was like just missed. But other than that, like he was throwing the slider that was like dotting the outside corner. Or if it was a 2-strike slider, he would throw it that started a little bit down the middle and then would run off the plate where they run out of bat. But the reason that he was still able to do that because he was throwing in. He was throwing his fastball. He was locating with that. He was throwing that sinker, bro. Like, so those are the things that I feel like his stuff wasn't like, oh my God, that's nasty, but he was able to really locate his pitches and keep everybody just enough, like their timing just enough off, and making and telling his pitches just enough to where they're swinging at that slider because it looks like a fastball that's right down the middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And on the other part, when you look at Senga, he threw some nasty splits or fork balls, whatever those are, but he could not control it. And he was
Nah, bro.
all over the place.
Oh, he's throwing balls to the backstop. Like it was balls are bouncing in front of home plate. I was like, bro, Francisco Alvarez is gonna have a tough day today, bro. This guy's throwing balls all over the place.
And he's emotional back there, like, Vamos, come on. He's like,
Yeah, bro.
come to me,
I
let's
love
go,
that kid. I love playing
He's
with that
great.
kid, bro. He's great back there, man. He's great. But like you said with Flaherty yesterday, when you have a pitch that's in the same speed as your fastball, because his fastball is 90 to 94,
Yeah.
and that little cutter slider thing that he throws, if it's upper 80s, like you really have to be fine with that and like put it in the
Yeah.
right spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're saying, because the speeds are the same. That's why when he locates that as a hitter for me, if you're locating that sharp slider cutter on the outer part, that pitcher now can expand with a slower slider,
Right.
even way off. And that's what he was doing yesterday. And the guys were swinging at it because they were thinking it was like the short little one, but it wasn't.
They're
It
in
ended up being
between.
like the one where he wanted to expand that was like lower to mid 80s, and that's why I think location, and Smoltz talked about it last night on the air. He's like, when you can work off your fastball, your other pitches then play. You can't just start playing with your slide and your off speed like right away,
Right.
because then you're working with just those two pitches. The fastball's not really mixed in there to get the hitters off, because every hitter is working off of a fastball.
Right.
Like as hitters, like we are working off of your hardest pitch because that's what can sync up our timing and to get us in the right posture. So if you can, as a pitcher, work off of your fastball, then you could just play with us all day. And that's what he did yesterday. He was just playing with them all day.
Well, I feel like when you have like a good fastball, obviously, and people like once you establish that, that's great. But also you can also use that to your advantage, because if you're like a fastball heavy guy, in fastball counts, you can then throw a wrinkle and throw
Yep.
a breaking ball or whatever. And I feel like that's what Yamamoto was doing. Was it against when he was pitching against the when did he pitch? Oh,
Padres.
against the Padres.
Hmm.
That's what he was doing, and that's Smolty was. I heard him talking about it then also as well, and he was like, Yamamoto sometimes gets too caught up in his off speed. He tries to spin it too much, and he starts to try to do. And I think that was true, but like at the same time, like he was still using his fastball. It was establishing it, but he was also using it as like a jab, showing it,
Yeah.
and then throwing his his other pitches, his secondary pitches. And I think that's when you have a good mix of that, because even if you just have a good fastball, like in playing in the big leagues, bro. It doesn't matter. You're in the
Yeah,
playoffs. Someone's gonna
it's gonna
clip
get
you.
smacked. Yeah,
Yeah. So like you can't overdo it. And like sometimes when Smoltz talks about it, he's like, you got to establish your fastball down and away. And blah. I'm like that. There's some truth to that. I think more so because if you can locate your fastball down and away, then you're extended. You're out in front with it, right? And that's
yeah,
where you want to be with your pitches. You want to be out in front. And that creates a late break. That creates a deception. That creates all that stuff. But like the old school way of like, just throw down and away. Like when in doubt, throw the fastball down and away. Like I've never been like, I'm not completely sold on that. I mean, it's worked for many years, but like, I don't know. What do you think about that? Like if it's all right, 2-0 count and the pitcher's going to throw a fastball down and away. Like, wouldn't you think that would help you out?
yeah. Because and that's why I think as hitters, right, when it's a hitter's count, we're always looking fastball. And at
Yeah.
the big league level, even if it's in the zone, it's gonna get hit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like, it's just
I loved
if
it,
you
bro.
can, and if you can, like you said, throw that wrinkle in there when they're expecting a fastball, that's how you like use it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
as a hitter for me, it's really all about. I had trouble when a guy can use the whole plate because if a pitcher is just only focused on down and away and his off speed comes down and away, that's where it starts out of the hand, right? Like when
Yeah.
as a hitter, we look at like yes and no zones, right? Like go and no go zones. So if a guy is down and away, my go zone isn't going to be down and away, even though that's where he's going because that's where he wants me to look. I want to
Hmm.
make and hit the mistake, so my go zone is going to be a little bit closer to me, a little bit up. Because if my go zone is down and away, then I'm going to be chasing those sliders and those cutters all day.
So does that go zone that changes throughout your at bats,
Yeah,
or like you have a consistent approach with that?
it changes throughout the pitcher, right? Because if, for example, if there's a guy who has the vert,
Okay.
my go and no go zone now is lower because I don't want to chase two up. Like for example, like Kopech, the closer for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
go zone for against him is kind of middle and like middle down because he's a fastball up kind of guy, and my go zone will be that kind of because if my go zone is a little bit up, I'm going to chase even more up, because
Right. Okay.
the guys that have the good ride and on their fastballs, you have to lower your sights big time because you're just not going to get on top of that fastball, especially at
Oh,
103 miles an hour.
I thought it was the opposite because of, I don't know, just in my pitcher brain, I would have thought that because the ball has more vert, that your brain is going to perceive that ball lower, or yeah, your brain is going to perceive that ball lower because it's used to the average pitcher throwing and it's staying at a certain plane, because we can't consciously be like, all right, I'm going to swing at this path or whatever. Like it's all ingrained in us. And when we see a ball, you've seen thousands of balls, and when they come in, you're like, all right, this is where I got to swing. But like I always thought that when there's a guy that had a higher vert, that you're like, all right, this is where I feel like I should swing, but I'm going to try to swing to get on top of it. Is that, or are you taught, or
Yeah,
is there slightly
so
different?
the go and no go zone is for your eyes,
Okay.
but the path is then when you have the guys avert, you want to swing a ball above, so you kind of want to have like
Okay.
the get
Okay.
on top of it feel. So that get on top of it feel and the what your swing path needs to be at is different than
I got
like
you.
the go and no go zone is for me like, hey, I'm swinging here, like I am going, and then the second part of it is why hitting is so damn hard is like, all right, I need to swing above this thing because it's going to meet me above than what I typically think that it's going to do.
Okay. Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So like the go no go zone is more for like
The
identifying
visual,
strikes and balls.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Like the no go zone is like, hey, like my body, like as a hitter, I'm saying yes, 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 yes. I say no when that ball is not in the go zone. But
Okay.
when that ball is in the go zone, then like, hey, I'm going. And then at that moment, you process in your head, hey, that's a fastball. I need to get on top of this thing. And then that's when
Okay.
you kind of, with the guys with vert, you kind of get on top of this guy because if
Uh,
not, you're just going to be fouling it straight back all day.
so I guess that was kind of the way that I pitched. So like I would throw, let's say my first pitch, I'm trying to go down and away just to throw a strike, and it's to a righty. And I throw it and it goes up and in for a ball. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna scrap that plan that I had before, because that's his eyes are just saw that last pitch in my mind. I'm thinking, all right, that's where his eyes are. So like and based off the reaction, like if it was just above the zone and you like took like you're stepping in the bucket, and I'm like, oh, I see what he wants to yank. All right,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna throw either a changeup that's gonna start in his go zone that's gonna fade into him, or I'm gonna throw a slider that starts in his go zone that goes outside of the zone. So
Yeah.
like that in my mind, that's what I was thinking, and like so I had a game plan. I didn't execute my pitch, so I'm altering my game plan now based off of that what I just threw, and not only what I just threw, but the take. Now, if it was like one of those where you leaning forward and doing like that, I'm like, oh, okay, well, he was kind of looking out over the plate. I'm
And
gonna
that's
give
why
him
you were
some.
successful and pitched for a long time, bro. You know what I mean? Like you didn't just stick to one plan, and that's why I think the best pitchers, the best hitters can make adjustments pitch by pitch in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like the ones that are the most successful do. They're able to like they're like analytics is amazing. That's a tool, but they're able to understand the analytics of it all and the tendencies and all that stuff, and alter that into the way that fits whatever their game plan that they see at that game that like right then and there. Because now there's for me, I feel like whenever pitchers pitch like a certain pattern, they're like, oh, I throw my slider at this RPMs and I feel like it's unhittable because based off of all these other, I just got to throw it for a strike or whatever. It's like I feel like that's a pattern that a hitter can download eventually, and then once
Yeah.
they download that pattern and that plan, what the fuck are you gonna do now?
Yeah.
Like what do you do now?
Especially for starters, like if that's your plan for all three at bats you're gonna get against that guy as a hitter, especially in the big leagues, you're gonna figure that plan out within your first at bat. So the next two or three, the good pitchers like set them up in different ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because if you have the same plan for every single guy, you're just not. I'm sorry, at this level, you're gonna get away with it in the minor leagues, but at this level, you have no chance. You're not gonna. You have to constantly make adjustments.
it's an
If you're not, you always see it like the rookies come in and the first couple of starts, they'll dominate, right? Because no
yeah,
one's really seen him yet, no one knows his tendencies yet. But once he gets those first couple of games, the league makes an adjustment to him. And if that guy can't make an adjustment back to the league, it's going to be a long season. He's going to be back down in the minor leagues. But the good guys can make this game is all about making adjustments, right? Because remember, 2 years ago, it was all about pitchers having the vert, throwing up. So hitters changed their swings
yeah.
to then like attack that up pitch. Now we're seeing more pitchers have sinkers.
Sink.
You know what I mean? So like
Yeah,
baseball is a game of constantly making adjustments. So now we're going to see the swings getting back to the whole stay inside and lift the ball because that's the only way you can hit sinkers. You have to the good players and the good teams know how to use, like you said, use analytics, but bring the baseball gamemanship to it. And I think that's
right.
why the Dodgers are always so good.
Yep.
Houston's always so good. Like they have great, and everyone has the same analytics as everybody else. Like it's all the same stuff. But the bad teams just get the nerds and like, hey, the nerds are going to tell us to do this all year, so we're just
Yeah.
going to do it because the numbers say it. But the good teams know how to balance both of them. And if you can balance both, you're going to have a more successful season.
Well, but also too, I feel like when you get people who are extremely smart at any subject, it don't have to be just analytics and nerds and all that. When you get someone who is very smart at something and that's their craft, that's what they do. A lot of the times, unless they're talking to people who have the same understanding and grasp in that subject as them, a lot of times when they talk to someone who doesn't have that same knowledge, it goes over their head because it's like, what are you saying, dude? Like,
It's gibberish. It's
these
like a different
numbers.
language.
Yeah, these numbers and stuff. Like I'm like like the Beautiful Mind or whatever, or like the Alan
Yeah.
from that GIF where he's like thinking about stuff. Like that's
Yeah,
how what
bro.
I get. I'm like, bro, I don't even know. Am I left-handed now? I don't know. Like what are we what are we doing? So like that's why it's important, and the Dodgers and the Astros and a lot of these organizations are starting to understand this. Is that like you have these smart guys, and then you have baseball minds, and then you have a bridge between that, so that it's easier to communicate, and the person that you're communicating it to understands it. And once the person understands it, then they can download it in their body and it becomes feel. That's the
Yeah.
step that's being missed right now. It's like, hey, hold this slider, like or hold this changeup, like Scooble. He throws a
Hmm.
changeup and a sail. They both throw the same similar changeup. It's weight shifted, seamed, or I don't know what some shit like that. And both of them are like, yeah, some guy just told me to hold it like this and throw it. Like, I don't understand why it's doing it or how, but like, this is like the way I throw my slider, and it's basically
Hmm.
unhittable. They even those guys are some of the best in the game, and they don't understand why or how it's doing what it's doing, because someone who doesn't know how to communicate that effectively didn't like give it to them right. So I think that happens a lot in the game. And I think teams and players suffer because of that. Like having someone that comes in that understands a little bit of both of it to be able to translate it better is only going to be like make your team more successful, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, dude.
Yeah. And I think that's why we're going to see more managers that just got done playing like in this little era, like the Stephen Votes of the
Mhm.
game, you know, that are going to have very good managerial careers because they have both played in the old school era. They have also both played in the analytical heavy era, and they are able to combine both of them because they have been in both and they've seen what works from both. And when you can do that, that's what you need, because you're doing a disservice to yourself and to your team if you are just not using analytics, right? If you're just like a heavy baseball guy and like, oh, we're not gonna use analytics like that. You have to
Yeah,
use analytics. Analytics don't lie. Like I'm sorry, but numbers don't lie. But
100%.
also you're dumb if you don't use the numbers to your advantage, right? So like you
Yeah.
have to use both, man. And if you're just heavy analytics on one side or just heavy baseball on the other, you're not going to be successful at this level, because the good teams that have the resources use them to their benefit with also the baseball knowledge that they have. You know, like Roberts has played for a long, long, long time. You know what I mean? And he's using his old school stuff with the Dodgers analytical stuff that they were heavy on early on in his career while he was there managing. And now
Yeah.
you can see like every year he's getting better and better at managing a game and like managing what the team needs by his eyes and the numbers.
Yeah. And you can see that. I mean, he's been making some good moves lately.
Yeah, bro.
As far as like putting in certain people in. I mean, he made the good call of that's another reason why I love postseason is like having Kike Hernandez. All right, you're starting tonight, and then he ends up hitting the bomb, you know, off of Darvish, who was pitching really well. Darvish is one of those guys that has 8
Bro,
pitches,
Darvish locked in.
and he threw 2 mistakes. I was surprised though that he threw Hernandez a first pitch fastball. Like, you know what I
What
mean?
I
Like,
like, I wasn't surprised because this playoff, Darvish has been using his fastball more, which has helped him. Because usually, like I faced him in 21, and the
uh-huh.
report was this was just after the whole like everyone's not using the sticky stuff anymore,
Yeah, yeah,
so they
yeah,
weren't throwing the fastballs like they used to. And
yeah.
the report was, hey, this guy is against righties is pretty much 70% off speed.
Right,
You know, and
right.
so it made it like a comfortable at bat for me. Like, hey, I'm just sitting slider, and I took him deep to right field at Marlins Park, and
Yeah,
I hit a
man.
single down the line. You know, it's just like he just didn't dominate with his fastball. And I got to see this year in the postseason, but he was using his fastball, and it made
Yeah.
all his other stuff, like you said earlier, so nasty, bro. And like that guy to me was the best pitcher in the postseason, in my opinion.
I think so too. I think so. He was really consistent. He was using his fastball, but he wasn't overusing it. Right. He
No,
was he was throwing it in good spots. But like a guy like Kike who doesn't get that many at bats, one
yeah,
thing he's never going to get off of is a fastball. I feel like this is a bullpen mine. You know, like when I come into a
yeah,
game and I face a guy who doesn't get consistent at bats, I'm gonna throw him a cutter. I'm gonna
yeah.
throw him something that's I'm
Because
gonna make sure
he's been
you
on that
know.
machine in the cage, that fastball machine heavy, so he's locked into the heater
Yeah, dude. So I'm
for
like, I'm not
sure.
gonna throw him a fastball unless like I got him. I set him up somehow in the
With
last
something
at
up.
bat. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Where it was like,
yeah,
a fastball is warranted right here because I've thrown him all like soft. So if I throw him a
yeah,
fastball, like it's gonna throw him off. So like, and then it was kind of like middle up, and Kike just does what he does in the
yeah,
postseason.
yeah.
So that
Kike
was
is
that
just
was
on fire.
by the way, so, yeah, he is on fire, and well, both of Hernandez's are on fire. But when you mentioned about the cages and the machine in the cages, have you seen one of those new machines where they can basically they type in like the codes of whoever you want to pitch, and it throws the
Yeah, bro. It
exact.
is it is insane. So my cousin is a hitting coach for the Pirates, Christian, and he's like, hey, we're thinking about getting this machine. So he like kind of shows me all the machines that they're planning on getting. And
Yeah,
he's like, and I'm like, bro, how do these work? And he's like, dude, we just put in whoever's pitching that day, and it'll show the exact spin rate of every off speed, every fastball, and it's pretty much you just are facing the guy, you just aren't getting the exact like wind up and everything of it all, which to me is the most important thing.
for sure. Yeah,
If I could program Like if I'm facing Sabathia, if I could program his cutter and his slider in the
Right.
cage for 30 minutes and I could see it before I actually get into the game, bro, that's such a huge advantage.
Huge.
Like the biggest advantage, I think, and it's genius to be honest.
100%. Whoever made that is
Bro,
getting
about to
breaded
be
right now,
rich.
bro.
About to be rich,
R-
rich.
Yeah, like, I mean, those things probably cost what, like, I don't. Did he say how much that costs? Like a machine?
I want to say it's over 100 grand, bro. Like
It's gotta be.
it's like north of 100 grand, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah, bro.
man. Yeah,
Insane.
that that's pretty dope though. You see Muncie's home run just a minute ago.
Yeah, this one's a wrap. They're
Y-
the Dodgers are throwing the non-important arms out there right now, saving them for game 3 already. So it's
Well,
like,
so what's Dave or Robert's got some flack from a few people. Like one of was Atlanta Rizzo and the guy she does the Dodgers podcast with, because he kind of said something to the effect of like, we're try to get through this game. We know we got to play 2 more, or we got a game tomorrow, whatever it is, and we want to make sure we were set up for that and blah, blah, blah. And they were kind of getting on him for saying something like that. Well, like, but the game is going on still. And you got to play to win. It seemed like he was waving the white flag, and it was in the 3rd or 4th inning or whatever it was, whenever they got blew out by the Padres. And I was like, yeah, but the thing is, like, it's the truth. Like the
yeah.
odds
See,
of
but
winning in that
that's
game.
him seeing the game, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
him being a baseball mind and be like, hey, really, game true matters, but we're a game up right now. I'm not going to throw all of our dudes so that the Mets can see our dudes for game, just because we have to use them for game 3.
Right.
It's just like, it's the game within the game, and only baseball people can see that. Like the nerds can't see it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Yeah, for sure.
the baseball mind see like, hey, this game is out of reach. Let's throw our guys who are long starters in the game, like Honeywell's in the game right now, who's technically grew up a starting pitcher for
Yeah.
Tampa his whole career. So hopefully you have him throw like 3-4 innings, kind of just save the bullpen, because this game is just, it's out of reach.
So-
Unless they score 3 here or 2, and then they were in like a grand
Right.
slam of a swing, then maybe.
Right.
But
I
you
mean,
have to be smart
obviously-
and play for the long series.
For sure. And everyone that is on this roster is good enough to get you zeros. So,
Yeah,
like,
of course.
you're really discrediting, if you're someone that's criticizing, you're discrediting the rest of the guys that are in the bullpen or on the roster that can get the job done. So the job of his right now is to go as long as possible and put up as many zeros as possible.
That's it.
Not just try to finish the game, no matter how many like runs you give up.
No.
The goal is to put up as many zeros, because it's baseball. You never know. A walk, a homer. The score is 6-3 right now. We're right there. So you know what I mean. Like, so that it's a game within the game. Understanding all that, and one of the things that being on this side of things that I'm trying not to do, that I see a lot of people do, is criticize players and forget how hard the game is.
Yeah,
like,
bro.
Come on, Darvish, are you serious? You threw a fastball up and in right there, and Kike Hernandez, or like down the middle. What are you doing? You're not supposed to throw fastballs. I hope I'm never that guy, because I understand that. Like, I'm not trying to throw a fastball right. I'm not trying to give up a homer or whatever it is.
I'm not trying to throw it right down the middle. Like, I missed my spot. I'm a human being.
I'm not trying to swing at that ball.
I'm 90 pitches into this game. You don't think my arm is freaking killing me right now? 162
Exactly.
seasons, like in the playoffs, like, yeah. But that was the fun thing about doing the whole Nesson and the Red Sox thing this year, was I want to bring positivity and I want to lift these players up. As an analyst, do we have to talk about, hey, if the team's not playing bad, like why they're not playing well? Yeah, of course. But I'm not going to do it in a way of, hey, this guy just sucks. Like, no, like, this guy is a Major League Baseball player. He has perfected his craft. This game is very hard. And I know that he's in the cage grinding his butt off like every day, like how I did, but I'm going to talk about the game like in a positive light, and these players in a positive light, and just kind of explain things for viewers, right? Like, I'm not going to explain like, oh, this guy sucks. No, I'm going to explain, hey, this is what's going on. Like, this is probably what he's feeling, that he's, probably, his shoulder's probably bugging him. Like, everyone was worried about Devers this year at the end of the season. Like, oh, he should be benched. He's not hitting well. I'm like, well, he's probably not hitting well because there's something bothering him in his body, and he's just not going to give up and be like, hey, like, I want to sit out for the rest of the year because my shoulder hurts. No, this guy's a gamer, and they were kind of in the playoff hunt, so he wanted to be there for his teammates.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, like, But people don't see that. They just see like, oh, this guy struck out 3 times in a game. Like he sucks. Like send him down to AAA. No, but like there's more to why what is going on. You know, like there's a kink in his swing or something. You know what I'm saying? So it's cool to have us as like positive voices for the players and for fans to see and realize, hey, the sport is hard and we can't be perfect all the time. Like look at
Right.
Judge, MVP season and the playoffs hasn't done anything yet because he's not getting pitched to. They're saying,
Yeah.
oh, he's not a playoff player. Like no, like this guy gets pitched to completely different in postseason than he does in season. So he's making constant adjustments to that, and it's only going to take one swing and one pitch for that guy to get back to being Aaron Judge regular season.
I mean, like him and like Stanton as well. Like sometimes, like
Yo,
there's
G's
times where
killing it.
Stanton,
He killed it in that Royals series, you know, and that's what's
bro,
so cool about the Yankees this year is they have guys that can pick Judge up. You know, the
yes,
guys that are healthy enough. Like G's finally healthy enough to be G. You know, and
yeah,
that to
exactly.
me is so important for the Yankees. I think that's why this is the best year they've had in a long time.
Yeah, yeah, they have a pretty complete team. And then now with Clay Holmes, doing his thing, like out of the
Bro,
bullpen, like in the high leverage roles. And one of the biggest things I feel like he got back to is throwing that damn sinker. Like he got
bro,
two like
it's
slider.
so
He's a sinker guy, and when a sinker guy does anything different than that, and he's doing like this, it throws that off a little bit. So like it's you lose the feel for it, you lose the sharpness of it. And like I've seen recently, he's gone back to throwing more of that. I mean, for me, if I had a sinker light, I'll be wearing that out. That's
bro.
so.
But
It's one
as
of
a
the
hitter,
natural.
right? If I'm facing a guy who's all sliders, like how I face you, Darvish, I just can look over there. Like I know the ball's gonna be in that zone over there. You need
Right.
something to get me worried about the inside part of the plate. Like if we could just focus on one part of the plate, our job is easier. But now when we have to focus 2 parts or three
Mm-hmm.
parts with a guy who's north and south and east to west, then that's
Mm-hmm.
a whole different ball game, you know. And I want to ask you because you're a pitcher, and when you are throwing nothing but sliders or you're a slider guy and they want you to kind of throw like more of like a cutter or a slurve and you're changing the movement of your pitches that you haven't done in your career, like how tough is that as a pitcher to like for your arm to find like the release points and different release points of your pitches now because they're all different, you know?
Yeah, no, it is tough, especially like I haven't had to learn many pitches. Like I would tinker with my grips a little bit just to
Mm-hmm.
get different shapes. Like so, there were times where I threw 9 sliders in a row, but I guess because I couldn't land my fastball. My fastball
Mm-hmm.
was like all over the place, or like the slider felt really good in my hand. So then when and get in those modes, I would change the shape. So I guess you would technically say one was a sweeper and one was like a true slider, and then one was like a slower one. I would throw with less effort, and it would be like a so my slider was normally from 80 to like, and
Mm-hmm.
whenever I'd throw like my third slider or whatever, it would be like 78, and it would just like be a little bit more like
Got you.
loopier. So I'm like, because this is the pitch that feels good in my hand, I'm gonna treat it like my 83 is my fastball, my
Mm-hmm.
good fastball, and like my other ones are just altering it in different shapes because again, like my fastball was I had no feel for it or whatever. You know what? I was using my
Yeah.
fastball as a jab. Like, all right, like they're
Yeah.
leaning too far over. I'm gonna try to throw this shit in. I'm almost hit them, but like it'll
Just
get them off my
sneak it in there.
yeah. Like just little like boom. Like don't hit it because like because I was less confident with it. But yeah, man. I mean, for someone like Holmes though, who was throwing a slider, which is a completely different like motion than like
Yeah.
his sinker, that can really mess with like your pressure points because pitching is all about pressure points
Mm-hmm.
and that's what the seam shifted weight is or whatever. It's like certain pressure points on certain parts of the seam that cause a certain movement. So that's what it is. So like whenever you alter those release points and pressure points, you can lose feel. And there were times when I lost feel. It felt like I was throwing the baseball from like this part of my hand of my fingers instead of on the fingertips instead of right in front. It felt like I was like pushing the
Mm-hmm.
ball, and that's one of the worst feelings you can have. So yeah, I mean, but with the Yankees, man, like I feel like they got a good path right now, and I
Yeah.
feel like they match up good against the Guardians, especially with I don't know, like I just don't see like well, who's throwing tonight?
Yeah.
Alex Cobb. I feel like
Yeah.
the Yankees. That's a good matchup for the Yankees, man. I
And
don't
they've
know.
actually seen him because he was with Tampa Bay for a long time, you know. So that's a guy
Yeah,
that they're familiar with. And I mean, Cleveland still has a little underdog to them, and that's
For
always,
sure.
I think, a benefit in the playoffs because no one expects you to win. So you're just like, screw it, let's just
Hmm.
play. Like, like there's like you're playing with nothing to lose. Whereas the
Right.
Yankee, like when teams play with pressure, like for example, the perfect example for me was the Phillies this year compared to last year.
And
Last year they had no pressure because they were a wild card team. So like, hey, we're a wild card team. Like we're just gonna roll through this thing. Like who cares what happens? As to
yeah.
this year, they were the top dogs, and you saw it in the series against the Mets. These guys were chasing all over the place. Like you could tell that there was just so much pressure on every hitter, and they just
Yeah.
pressure's a big deal in baseball, man, especially in the postseason. And I think that's why it's affected the Yankees so much because they've been to the postseason too many times to not get to a World Series recently. And
Right.
the only thing that makes sense to me is pressure, right? Like that's because
100%.
these teams are number one seeds because they're great teams and they show it throughout 162 games. But when you get in the postseason, that pressure comes in and it's like, hey, this is like the expectation for us. And
Mm.
that creeps into guys and it makes guys just a little bit just tense enough in the batter's box or on the mound to change the course of their performance.
Well, I think what happens, I was just speaking to someone about this this morning. I think what happens is the pressure distorts what your job is. So when you're on the mound, when you're
I
in the
love
box,
that, bro.
when you're in the field, you got one job to do is to execute. The ball gets hit to you, and you're playing shortstop. Your job is to catch the ball and throw the ball to first base.
Yep.
If you're at the batter's box, your job is to try to execute on your game plan and alter it if you can, but that's it. You're not trying to win a ball game every at bat. You're not trying to win a ball game
No.
with every pitch. It distorts what your job is. And like when, I mean, we felt it whenever we're playing. Oh, like this is a big situation. I can feel it right now, And you're like, well, hold up, wait, what are you feeling right now? Like you're creating that pressure. My job is
Yeah.
still,
The
what is the
same
pitch?
thing.
All right, we got a fastball
Yep.
away. My job is to execute that fastball away. You know what I mean? Not, well, if I don't throw it all the way outside, then he can hit a home run, and that's going to make us lose. And then that's going to like, we're supposed to win. And there's a lot of pressure on us. And you start thinking of things that like don't really matter in that situation. So it's like, all right. And what the Phillies are trying to do is like they're trying to will their way out of it instead of just, really trying to allow the game to come to them, simplify it, and just do your job, execute. So I think that's what pressure does. It distorts what your job is.
100%. But I agree with that 100%. It was so clear in that Phillies Mets series. Like every guy just looked like they were trying to hit a homer. But that's a team that walks. Like Trey Turner
Yeah.
has a good eye. Harper has a good eye. Schwarber has a good eye. Nick Castellanos, not so much, but he
No, no,
actually
no.
balled
He's
out that
different.
series. You know what I mean?
He's a hacker, but you need that too.
But that's his approach. But those other guys' approach isn't to hack. Their approach is to get good pitches in the zone, and when they make a mistake, do damage. And dude, like Manaea, the last game that he pitched, and
Yeah.
Quintana was like should have walked 10 guys that game easily. He was at 3 balls to like almost every hitter, and they just kept chasing like on the three.
Yeah, because you can feel that when you're on the mound. You can feel that. You can feel when someone really wants it. And
Yeah,
when
bro.
someone walked in the box too calm, I'm like, sheesh, this guy's looking nice up there. Let me throw a
Yeah.
fastball. Let me throw a fastball up and in, and I'm gonna mug him a little bit. I'm gonna like
Uh
give him
huh.
like I want him to be mad at me. I want him.
Yeah.
I want to change
Get off.
his.
Get him off of his game.
I want him off his game. That's what I want to do,
Yeah.
or I'm gonna step off. I'm gonna take my time. Well, you can't do that now. I would find a way to disrupt the flow because
Yep.
if you can do that, if you can get someone in a heightened state, then you can feed off that. Again, you can make
Yeah.
things look a certain way and it not be, and they're gonna chase it like it is. And
For
same thing with
sure.
I mean, I've seen guys been baited in as pitchers as well. Like what's his name? The guy who crosses his arms for Seattle. He got traded. He
Oh,
played
it's
for
Rainier.
yeah.
Yep.
How he was just like, well, he wouldn't. He was like, didn't he was stepping out of the box before the ball would get there. Then he ended up hitting a homer on the third.
Bro, that was so gangster. So only this guy will pull that off, bro. That guy is
I
made
love it.
for the show, like made for the big moments. That's why he balls out in the World Baseball Classic and the playoffs, because that guy
Yeah,
just does not care, bro. Does not care about pressure at all. That came
not at
from
all,
Cuba, bro.
man.
That's Cuba's real pressure, living and getting out of there, and that's why a lot of Cuban players have success in the game and Latin guys, because the pressure is not on the baseball field for them; it's back at home, their families
100%.
and stuff. So it's
Yeah,
cool to
it's
see
like
those
it's a
guys
different
have
game.
big moments like that. Yeah.
yeah. This is the game. This is like this is nothing. Like this is
No,
fun. This is like
for
a
sure,
privilege pressure, you know. So,
for sure.
but yeah, man.
Hey,
Yeah, you got
6-1, bases
anything?
juiced, one out.
I was watching that. Mayton.
6-3
Yeah.
ball game. 6-3 ball game.
Did they score?
Yeah, six.
Oh my God.
First and third.
I'm a little behind. Did you see how they scored? Pete Alonso, it like went under his glove. I feel like he had
Yeah.
a chance to catch that.
Let's see. Seeing the replay right now. I had like that top spin. You know when the ball goes from the grass to the dirt?
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
that top spin and just stayed down on him.
Man, that stuff. He normally like tackles the baseball. Like he's not the best defender, but he'll
No.
tackle a ball.
Can't tackle it when you die for it. You know what I mean?
Dang.
Well,
And the runner was kind of in the way.
this is the ball game. We got ourselves a ball
Wow.
game. Munty's up. Already hit a homer today. And
So
look, bro, the bullpen guys kept them in the game, kept it at 6 runs until the 6th inning to give the guys a chance.
they're
Like you said,
non-high leverage guys. Yeah.
those guys can still get it done. It's just not the high leverage guys, but the
Right.
non-leverage guys are still guys that can get it done that are in the big leagues for a reason. You know what I mean?
100%. So where are they at in their lineup? Muncie hits what, 7th?
Yeah, 7th.
Mm.
So I mean, the top of the order is going to get to 2 more at bats easily.
Yeah. So I was wondering. I was like, when does like
If they score right here, they'll go back to their high leverage guys, I believe.
right?
If they get one more run to make it 6-4, I
Yeah.
think they.
Well, so what if you're on the Mets? When do you bring in Diaz?
I mean, Diaz is coming into the game in the 9th, 100%.
You think in the
I think-
ninth? Not
I think
coming
because
up?
Manea just got out of the game right now, and they just brought in Matten, who's like a mid
He's a high
leverage
leverage.
guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think they're still going to try and get their high leverage guys in the game still because they're only throwing 3 more innings in this game. You know what I mean? So they don't have to use too many guys for the rest of this game. And yesterday, none of the high leverage guys pitched, so you want to get them in the game to get some work in.
Right.
So I think those guys are going to try and close the door for the rest of this game because it's 6-3, bro. 3 runs is nothing.
1 out. So he's a pitch away right here, but he's feeling the pressure, man.
Hey, I'll let it get to you, dog.
Yeah. Then you
Uh-oh.
got big back
Bases
Kike.
juice for Kike. Here comes Kike with the granny.
Oh my
Gosh,
God.
bro. Can you imagine if he hits a grand slam right here?
I'm calling the series, man. Like I'm like, that's it. Like the series is over. Like
That's just if he hits a granny right here, that'll be just
just
insane.
it'll just add to his resume, bro.
But he's gonna go down as one of the best postseason players like in baseball, like top 10.
Well, he has like the most home runs in postseason. Yes, like
yeah, 14.
this guy,
Mm.
yeah, I'm behind.
This is gonna be a good series, man. This to me is the World Series.
Goodness, dude. So yeah, but it would be dope to see.
I mean, baseball needs Dodgers, Yankees, right? I mean,
but even if the Mets win, like Mets,
Yeah,
Yankees,
yeah. But I think for baseball to profit more,
well, Shohei,
they need Shohei because of the Asian market. And I was
And then
explaining
George.
this to somebody the other day. Like the New York market is huge, but the only people that will be watching the World Series are like New York fans. Like no one in California will be watching the game. No one in Japan and Asia will be watching the World Series really.
right.
You know what I mean? Like baseball Shohei versus Judge so that literally the whole world will watch. Because if it's just New York, the whole Northeast will pretty much be locked in and that's it, you know?
Yeah. No, I think that's a good take. That
Yeah.
is true. Yeah, you gotta have Shohei in there for sure.
Bro, got to.
That'll be so sick.
Bro, this was
Trust
good.
me. Yeah, man. Yeah. You wanna clip it right here? We're like
Yeah, let's
50
just
minutes.
flip it.
Okay, cool.